Welcome to Wolverine Confidential Podcast. I'm Ryan Zook.
And I'm Aaron McMahon.
Michigan's men's basketball team continues to pile up the wins, and the latest have come in dominant fashion as the Wolverines look to be back in their early season form. The women face another top 5 test on Sunday, while hockey's first 1 versus 2 matchups against Michigan State lived up to their billing. We discuss that and more ahead on Wolverine Confidential. It's the Monday after the Super Bowl, Aaron, and several former Wolverines are champions. But yeah, I mean, first off, what did you do for the Super Bowl, and what did you think of the game? Get a little football talk here to start off.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, right? We're coming off the final game of the year, and we're not gonna have football for a while. I didn't get to see much of it. I was driving back from Ohio State for the first half, got home and had to take care of my husband duties. I saw some snaps in the second half, but by that point, it kind of already gotten out of hand. I mean, look, Seattle was the best team. There's no doubt about it. I regret not putting a bet in on them. I just, you saw the point spread. I was thinking, I'm like, Seattle's gonna win this by at least a touchdown, maybe more. And obviously, it turned out to be that way. Look, they were the best team. I think, when they beat the Rams and they won the NFC title, that was to me like that was probably the real Super Bowl here. The Patriots, everyone talks about their schedule and everything else. Some of their hiccups offensively, they just didn't seem like they were on the same level as Seattle. I thought the Seahawks were a better team, and it obviously bore out as the game wore on.
Yeah, I mean, all the people in the offenses and dominant quarterbacks win you Super Bowl championships. So it's not a good year for them because yeah, I mean that Seattle defense is just unbelievable, and I mean Sam Darnold didn't. I mean didn't turn the ball over, didn't play great, but didn't turn the ball over. And when you have a defense like that, that's kind of really just all you need to come out on top. So yeah, I mean Mike McDonald, man, what a run he's been on. I mean defensive coordinator just what 4 or 5 years ago for Michigan was part of that 2021 team that turned the program around, and in his second year as Seattle's head coach, he wins the Super Bowl. And I mean, AJ Barner, I mean, a guy that really didn't catch many passes in his 1 year at Michigan, out there scoring the first touchdown of the game, and really had a breakout sophomore year for the Seahawks. 2024 fourth round pick. Oluwatimi also on the roster, along with Mike Morris. They didn't really factor into the game much, but yeah, a large Wolverine representation there too. I mean, you got Chris Partridge on staff, Jay Harbaugh on staff, so really just yeah, big Super Bowl for Maize and Blue.
Yeah, how about Jim's son, Jay, getting a Super Bowl ring before Jim does?
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. But look, I mean, they were a very good team. They got some smart guys, and we talked about it, right? When Mike McDonald was here and Jay was here. I mean, they're two bright minds. They know what they're doing. They're experienced. They're seasoned. Yes, it was just year two for McDonald, but it was clear when he got the Seattle job that they felt confident in him and that he had the chops to do the job. And I mean, he's been great. I mean, he assembled a smart staff. He got the right players in. He made the most out of Sam Darnold, as you said this year. Kudos to all of them, and congratulations to Barner, as you said, all those guys on the Seahawks team that used to play at Michigan. Then you got the Michigan killer, so to speak, Kenneth Walker, the third, having a big game, and I think he won MVP right of the game. So it's quite the I don't know, quite the collection of talent, players, staff. They've got something going up there in Seattle. We'll see if all those guys can stick together. But yeah, I mean, they had a remarkable year.
Yeah, speaking of more former Michigan defensive coordinators, new Ravens head coach Jesse Minter plucked another staffer from the Wolverines, luring Michigan defensive line coach Lou Esposito away from the Wolverines, and creates another opening on Kyle Whittingham's staff. I mean, how big of a loss do you think this might be for the Wolverines? Lou Esposito's been here for a couple years now. Really had, I mean, with Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham a couple years ago, that was the strength of the defense. The unit wasn't great this past year, but he's recruited at a pretty high level too.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a loss. I think that more than anything, the timing isn't ideal, right? We're in early February here. Michigan's set to start spring practice here in about 5 weeks. So, Kyle Whittingham is going to have to make a decision quickly and try and find someone else. Fortunately for him, I mean, there's options. I mean, already on the staff, right? Lewis Powell, the defensive ends coach. He's got extensive experience coaching defensive lines. I don't know if that's necessarily what he wants to do here at Michigan. The bulk of his time at Utah was spent specifically at the end position. But I suppose if Whittingham needs him to do it, he'll do it. It's important to note too if you go down the Michigan coaching staff listings for this year, Powell is listed as the defensive run game defensive run game coordinator. So he's going to have quite a big hand in preparation and coaching and everything else. So perhaps he ends up being the guy. Another guy to pay attention to is David Denham, Michigan's assistant defensive line coach. He helped Lou Esposito this past year on staff. Again another veteran guy who's done it before. He was Western Michigan's defensive line coach. He was a recruiting coordinator a few years back. So um, he could handle the job if that's what Whittingham decides to do. But I think more than anything, losing Esposito is going to have a hit on the recruiting trail. I mean, we already talked about the just a lack of connections, the lack of experience from this current staff, this new staff, recruiting the state of Michigan and recruiting Midwest. And when that was one of the reasons why Kyle Whittingham decided to keep Esposito on staff. He told me after, during the week of the bowl game that he felt like he hit it off when he first met with Esposito. I think obviously his background, his experience, the job he did, 2 years ago coaching Michigan's defensive line played a factor. But more than anything, I mean, he's a Michigan guy. He's been in Michigan, the state of Michigan for a very long time. He was at Western Michigan, Davenport, Ferris State. He knows the ins and outs of the state, and I think would have helped them recruiting along with Tony Alford and a couple other guys on staff. So losing him is going to, I think, make a dent a little bit in Michigan's inroads recruiting high schools here in the state of Michigan. Now, look, I mean, it's naive to say that Michigan won't be able to make up for it. They certainly will. Perhaps it slows them down. I will say this, Lou's son, Lewis, he's the offensive lineman there at Saline. He was committed to Michigan. As of this time, remains committed. In fact, he reaffirmed his commitment last week on social media. No matter what his dad's deciding to do, it sounds like he's still willing to play at Michigan in the next couple of years. We'll see if that holds up. But yeah, I mean, it's a loss. I think timing wise more than anything because it limits your options to try and replace him. But as I said, I mean, it's possible Michigan sticks with an in-house candidate.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these past 2 recruiting classes, and the defensive line was definitely a strength of them both. I mean, even this past cycle, signed 5-star edge Carter Meadows. Titan Davis is a top 100 defensive lineman. Alistair Vallejo, top 250 recruit. So some real talent in coming into Ann Arbor. And then even Nate Marshall the year prior, top 50 guy overall. So definitely had definitely was one of the staff's best recruiters, and he was enjoyable to talk with too. I mean, he was one of my favorite coaches to have media availability with, and I mean, just the energy he brought and his insightfulness too. So we'll see what happens there. But it is February. March is just around the corner, so let's shift to the hardwood before we get to hockey later on. So I mean, the men's basketball team off to their best start in program history now at 22-1, dominated the Buckeyes on Sunday 82-61. I think, I mean, just behind a career performance from Mara. Yeah, I mean, incredible all around. And then, yeah, that comes on the heels of a 40-plus point blowout against Penn State earlier in the week, which seemed like it was like a varsity versus JV game almost in the Big Ten. So, yeah, I mean, Dusty May's team absolutely rolling right now. Um, yeah, so grueling stretch coming, but yeah, I mean, but first, another very winnable game against lowly Northwestern this upcoming Thursday. But you gotta like how Michigan's playing at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've kind of got their mojo back in some ways, right? Everyone wants to point to that stretch in late November where they're beating teams, ranked teams, by 30 and 40 points. Now, that's not necessarily the case here. Yes, they beat Penn State by 40 something points last week, but most of these games have been more competitive and closer. But I think when it comes to this time of the year, what Dusty May and his staff are looking for is players executing the way that it's things have been designed to take place, and that's certainly what Michigan's been doing. They've been playing very good basketball, and that that continued on Sunday. I thought it was a very complete game they played. They didn't shoot particularly well in the first half, but they made up for it for their 3-point shooting. They made 9 3-pointers in the first 20 minutes. They rebounded very well, especially on the offensive side of the board. And that's kind of been the difference maker the last 3 or 4 games. Michigan's rebounding and their offensive rebound, giving them second chance points, extra possessions, and that's really one of the big reasons as to why these games have kind of gotten out of hand on Michigan's side. So they're playing great basketball, as you said. Adayamara coming off a career game, 24 points, 11 to 16 shooting. He hit his first two collegiate 3 pointers, which it's
When you have him making a pair of three pointers, you know things are going well.
Right, it's weird because, like, you'll get if anyone who goes to these Michigan games, whether it's home or on the road, obviously, the players are out in the court, pregame, just getting shots up and stuff. It's not unheard of to see a Diamara out there hoisting threes from the perimeter, right? Like, he does practice them, and just Michigan doesn't prefer to use him out in the perimeter, but yet, for some reason, on Sunday, he got hot. He hit 2 of his 3 shot attempts, from distance. Before Sunday, he'd only attempted 4 all season. Really, his whole college career, he didn't. I went back and looked. He didn't even attempt a three during his 2 seasons at UCLA. So, not really known for being obviously a perimeter threat. But he believes that that's in his game. It's something he's capable of doing. So we'll see if Michigan continues to use that. My guess is no, because teams are maybe going to obviously start to put the pressure on a little bit on him. But look, ideally, Michigan would rather have him around the rim. He's great about around the rim. He's been rebounding very well. They prefer him on the offensive glass. So we'll see. But again, career game, and then Thursday night, Namari Burnett had a career game as well against Penn State. So guys, you're seeing starters and start to flash. Obviously, the Yaxel Lendeborgs he's playing very well. Elliot Cadeau's playing his role. Morris Johnson Jr. has almost been, I feel like, a double machine. It seems like, but you're starting to see other guys, kind of break out here, and that's really what you want from Michigan this time of the year. You don't have to. Ideally, you don't want to lean on one or two different guys. You want to lean really on your whole roster, and that's something I think Dusty May's been trying to build here all season long, where if one guy gets shut down or one guy is not playing particularly well or not shooting, having a bad shooting night, other guys can step in, and you're just fine. And that's certainly been the case for Michigan. They're just so darn talented and experienced, that they're kind of wearing down opponents, and that was certainly the case against Penn State last week. Penn State only dressed 8. They were missing their top rebounder. It showed early on, and Michigan ran away with that one. And then Sunday in Columbus, Michigan eventually just wore down the Buckeyes. And then the second half, it went from a 10-point halftime lead to it got extended very quickly. And it turned into a dunk fest in the second half. Michigan was getting away, going downhill, and slamming the ball home without much resistance. So clearly, Michigan and Ohio State are on two different playing fields at this point from a basketball perspective. Michigan still holds they're still first place in the Big Ten, 1 game lead on Illinois in the standings. But there's a long way to go. Northwestern on Wednesday night in Evanston, that obviously is a winnable game, so a game Michigan will expect to win. But then the challenges are going to ratchet up here. UCLA at home on Saturday, and then they hit the road for Purdue, and then they get to play Duke and DC, Illinois in the future, Michigan State's in the future. The schedule's just really getting going for where we're at in the season.
I was a little curious this morning, so I looked. I mean, obviously, Michigan's still ranked behind Arizona, but still, I mean, definitely a national title contender. I mean, the national pundits are saying maybe the deepest top 9 in the country. What do you think their national title odds are at this point?
I haven't looked, but as we always talk about in postseason tournaments, it comes down to matchups and what your bracket looks like, and it's weird because people always like to debate, right, whether the NCAA tournament's the best way to find a champion because it's 1 game elimination, right? You have an off night, you're done. Fortunately for Michigan, as a little bit ago, like they have so many different ways to win. They can defend when they want, they can shoot well when they want. Different guys can take over as needed. They have the size, I think, to keep up with like an Iowa State and an Arizona, those bigger teams. So I their fortunes are good. You don't want an injury, right? Like ideally, you don't want like a season-ending injury to any of these guys. That would maybe dampen things a little bit. But right now, I mean, Michigan, I don't want to say bulletproof because that's not fair, but they're winning in different ways. They're showing they can get by in different ways, and it's a well-oiled machine at this point. So They got a real shot. They'll probably be the favorite for the Big Ten tournament, assuming they don't melt down here down the stretch. And I think that'll be a good, window into I think what the NCAA tournament will look like for them.
Yeah, I mean, sports books are really liking them right now. Have yeah, DraftKings says them at plus 500 to win it all. Uh, FanDuel plus 550, both the second lowest odds behind Arizona on both books. So definitely it will be a fun end of the season, fun stretch here to really see how this team can stack up against some of the other elites in the Big Ten. But now moving over to women's basketball, a big week for them as well. They pulled away late from a very good Nebraska team on Wednesday, won 88 to 76. Sunday had an ideal start against number two UCLA, led after the first quarter before having a little bit of a lull in the second and third. But had a late surge and nearly pulled off a miraculous comeback. I mean, they trailed 11 with just under 2 minutes to go and hit a couple of clutch threes, forced a turnover, and Swords drilled another three with like 16 seconds to go. And all of a sudden, it's a 3 point game, and you're like, wait a second, no, are they gonna do it for their biggest regular season win in program history? And then UCLA at the other end misses both free throws, and it's like, wow, Michigan has the ball with like 13 seconds left. They call timeout to draw up a play, but just, I mean, weren't able to get an open look from beyond the arc. Great perimeter defense from UCLA, and Michigan loses 69 to 66. But like, certainly another measuring stick game for Kim Barnes Rico and her team. I mean, that's now three losses against top five teams this year, but all three have been by 3 points. It's like this program is just building, building, building. I mean, before they would lose these games by 10, 15, 20 points. I have spurts of being competitive, but just not run out of steam at the end. And this year's group is just showing that they're meant to be. They're a true contender, and maybe not as talented as the UConns or the UCLAs, but I mean, good enough to compete in a one game elimination tournament. Sometimes that's all you need. So I going into the game, I'm watching UCLA warm up, and it's just like, my gosh, they are long and lengthy, and they can shoot. And I mean, Lauren Betts, 6 foot. Speaking of, yeah, Mara on the men's side, I mean, Betts for UCLA, 6'7", and just her reach was almost made it unfair on the offensive and defensive glass too. So, I mean, but yeah, even UCLA's coach said, yeah, this Michigan team, like we told our team, like this is going to be a battle. Like this is, and that was a measuring stick game for them. They had come in, they've won 17 games now, I think all but maybe one by double digits. So like, I mean, UCLA is legit, and Michigan gave them a handful on Sunday afternoon at Chrysler.
I think the next step now, right, is just to pull these games out, right? We've talked about Michigan being in it with all these top teams and getting so close. And I think that next hurdle, right, is getting over the hump and winning some of these games. So right there, which is where you want to be. They're winning a lot of games. But I think that that's the next step here, right, for Kim Barnes and Rico in the program. It's just winning some of these ones. I don't know. We talk about a lot, right? The women's program is in good shape. They're winning games. They've clearly grown and matured. Um, now it's about winning these games. So I mean, tournament time will I think tell a lot. We'll learn a lot. They'll get some of those matchups, but at the very least, right, they'll be battle tested for the tournament. I mean, they've played a tough schedule, whether it's the Big Ten or the non-conference. They played some quality teams, so they should be ready to go come tournament time. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, like the men, they face Northwestern this week on Thursday, a very winnable game there, and then they welcome Michigan State on Breslin just like 14 days, yeah, 15 days after they squared off in an overtime thriller at Breslin. So that should be a fun rematch there. Uh, Speaking of that rivalry, my gosh, Michigan State hockey with a doozy of a series this past weekend. I covered both games. Friday night, probably the loudest I've ever heard. Yost Ice Arena, just an incredible comeback from the Wolverines. I mean, first ever number one versus number two matchup in the history of these two programs, and I mean, it did not disappoint. Michigan State looked pretty good. I think controlled play for the first two periods, took a 3-1 lead heading into the third, and like, well, State hasn't hasn't lost trail or leading after two periods all season. It's about to be the midway point, and Michigan, yeah, ends up tying the game and just a crazy sequence of events. I mean, relatively clean game as far as penalty wise for most of the game, but I know Michigan's bench was really upset that a call wasn't made kind of midway through the period, and then Michigan gets called for a boarding, and yeah, I mean you could just I mean crowds booing, head coach Brandon Arado is hot on the bench, giving the refs an earful. And it's like, well, huge kill for Michigan at trailing 3-2. They need to kill this off to for a shot. Not only do they kill it off, but they tie the game on a shorthanded goal by Keenan Draper, and the roof just blew off the building. It was incredible to see, and then they get their first power play of the game in overtime, and score to win 4-3. So that momentum didn't carry over into Saturday. I mean, it was all Michigan State through two periods. Got out to a 4-0 lead. It could have been 5-6-0, but Michigan gets one late in the second period to make it 4-1. And big push in the third from the Wolverines made it 4-2, but that's as close as they would get, and State wins the duel in the D at LCA for the third straight year. Record crowd for that event at over 19,000. So just two great atmospheres for a hockey rivalry that is officially back. But yeah, they split, but Michigan State takes 4 of 6 points in the series and takes over first place in the Big Ten by 1 point. So it probably going to come down to the wire. Michigan State's won the last 2 regular season titles. Michigan, surprisingly, has never won a Big Ten regular season title. So that should be interesting to see how these last few weeks of the regular season play out. But yeah, another big series upcoming against Penn State this weekend at Yost, a top 10, another top 10 matchup. So should be exciting.
A lot going on, man, between the 2 basketball programs. Hockey's playing well. I mean, everybody's playing well, and there's, I don't know, a lot going on this time of the year. A lot of, like, intriguing athletic events, right? Like, every game seems to matter, every game you wanna be at. It should be fun next couple of months between basketball, football, and then obviously spring sports are getting underway. It's gonna be a busy football off season.
Yeah, and a few ex-Wolverines too playing in the Olympics for Team USA. You have Dylan Larkin, Kyle Connor, Zach Werenski. Man, I think I'm missing one more off the top of my head, but yeah. So yeah. I mean, Olympic hockey's coming up too, which is exciting. That's kind of like the one winter Olympic sport that I will be tuning into. I can't say that there's many other events. I mean, there's not much time for us at this time either. It seems like every day there's something going on, but yeah, it's we're could be in for an exciting March here for the Wolverines on in multiple different sports. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you again soon.